Hi, everyone. I'm Rhonda Ellis.
And I'm Melissa Sutton. And this is Cultivating a Home,
the podcast. This is a place where we will talk about what really matters: growing in our walk with Christ, building strong marriages, raising our children with intention, and creating peaceful, life-giving homes centered on Him.
We'll share practical encouragement, real-life stories, and biblical truth to help you cultivate a heart and home that reflects Jesus. New episodes are every Thursday, so let's step into today's conversation together. Thanks, everybody, for joining us again today. Thank you for all the wonderful feedback that you can continue to give us. We appreciate it so much. On this episode, we are going to continue to talk about generosity, and there's just so much that we could talk about on that topic, so we decided to keep talking today about that. The verse that Rhonda shared last time was Proverbs 22:9, which says, "He who has a generous eye will be blessed, for he gives of his bread to the poor." We talked about last time, Rhonda, just about asking the Lord to give us a vision and an eye for needs and for where we can step in and be generous. Last time we talked about being generous with our money and being generous with our talents. We could continue to talk about those two things, but we're kind of going to move on a little bit with being generous in our time and how we can give generously, just spending time. And what does that look like to have a generosity in time? What would you like to share with us about that?
Time is certainly another way that we can give to others, that we can do for others, that we can be present. And it's also a built-in opportunity to teach those that are under our roof, starting with the very little. As you go, wherever your path takes you on a daily basis, just be open to, Lord, show me as we pass by a neighborhood that a friend might live in, or as I pass through town and various places. Is there somebody or something that you would like for us to go, do, serve? And I'm open, Lord, just teach me. Expect, trust, and obey, like we talked about last time, just as a lifestyle. Have that in your mind. And this can involve, as we mentioned, your children's activities as well. And so let's think about the time that you have, the time that you're with your kids. What can you be doing with them that includes them in this concept of having a generous eye, looking at life with the intention of blessing, of giving? And so I would involve your kids in that, and you might have conversations with them about their team that they're on. And are there any ways that we could be a blessing or that we could lighten the load? It might even be like a random idea pops in your mind, like on the baseball field. Maybe they need somebody to paint the lines. That's random. Okay. Well, let's ask if they need help doing that. Maybe your kids are in ballet and you're like, Lord, how could we be a blessing? How could we lighten the load? And then an idea comes up like, well, maybe I don't know how to sew and I can't help with costumes, but I know how to slick back hair. And so I can volunteer my time to do that. And maybe your teenage daughters are also good with that, and they could help with their time investing in their little sister's ballet program and be in the back helping all the little girls to get ready. It's just taking a look at where you are and saying, Lord, how can I bless? How can I help? And how can I lighten someone's load? Those are important things to be talking about in your home so your kids see the world through that lens.
That's really good. And sometimes I think that we might not think that time is something that we can be generous with, and what a ministry it is to give people your time. Sometimes it's harder for us to give our time than it is to give our money or to give of our talents, because our time is money, and time is so valuable and precious. And it really interrupts maybe your list. We've talked about that before, about your list, your agenda. And so when you are going to give time to people, you're kind of stopping what you had planned with your time to maybe step into somebody else. I know that you and I have talked about before, just coming alongside somebody and sitting with them, maybe in a time of need. Have you had any experiences with that.
I have. And that's such a beautiful thing for people to do. We've had kids that have had cancer and they're doing well now. But it was so sweet to have people come and sit with us in the hospital and just be present. They don't have to fix things. They don't have to know the answers. They're just present. And that meant a lot. And I wanted to encourage our listeners. It is really a big deal of what goes on in our brains. And it stops us in our tracks from obeying the promptings, obeying that creative idea that you had to help. Because we find ourselves thinking, I don't know, that could be embarrassing. What if they don't want the food that I brought them? Or I'd like to take them some food in the hospital or a basket of goodies, but what are they going to think about me? Are they going to think this is a dumb gift? And we have all of those things constantly berating us and paralyzing us when the fact is, if you have the idea, just trust and do it. Leave the results to the Lord, just trusting that He gave you that idea. And we don't have the answers, have to have the answers for when we're going to visit somebody or just sit with them during a moment of hard time, just being present. I remember this poem that I read in the book. There's 2 volumes of this book, but it's called Stories for the Heart. And it's Billy Graham, Max Lucado, Paul Harvey, lots of different writers contributed to it. And I cannot quote it exactly, but the point has stuck with me. It's just 2 stanzas, and this man has written it after losing his wife, and he's devastated. I picture it being an older man, and he's sitting in a very quiet home alone, and he compares 2 different friends, and it goes something like this. A man came to visit me today, and he talked, and he talked, and he talked, and I couldn't wait for him to leave. The second stanza. A man came to visit me today, and he listened, and he listened, and he listened, and I wanted him to stay. And that is so moving to me. And what I learned, I wanted to, again, pass on to my kids. I'm wanting to teach them confidence. I'm wanting to teach them just trust the Lord. So as I'm growing in my faith and also in battling my own insecurities, I want to pass that self-improvement, so to speak, onto my kids and give them that kind of confidence and teach them what I'm learning. So I shared with them that we don't have to know how to fix somebody's situation or have the right verses or words to say. They don't know what to do either. This is a new situation for them. Just being present and say, Lord, guide me. Show me what to do. Help me be behind the scenes, quiet, reading the room well. Let me hear your Holy Spirit guide me on what to do while I'm there. And we have lots of experiences because the kids have been included in things, in opportunities that have just presented themselves as life goes on, as like someone's spouse passes away or someone's kid is diagnosed with something. And you just say, Lord, at this time, what can I do and what can I include my children in so that they see the world through your lens and see that they can be present and use their time to love someone well. There was a situation that happened as I was learning to trust God and battle these, but what if, Lord? And it was a situation where someone's husband died from suicide. That to me was a big thing that overwhelmed me. Well, this particular person really meant a lot in my life. I didn't know him real well, but the few times I spoke to him, he really encouraged me in our homeschool journey. He gave us a lot of wisdom. And so I was learning really the act doesn't discount the life that he had and the impact he made on my life, because I didn't really know where to put such a heavy thing. But he truly had impacted many decisions and feelings regarding and practical application regarding homeschooling, the homeschooling path that we were in. And so I was really learning like that. Lord, I'm not good enough friends with the family. I don't know what to do. What am I going to walk into if I help? How can I help? And all of these normal things we all would be thinking. And again, talked with the kids about what had happened, and I wanted them to have a healthier view that I had grown into through maturity and
That's
through the
good.
Lord
Mhm.
changing and teaching me.
Mhm.
And I talked with them about this and how much this man had meant in our life and how we could really be a blessing. So we prayed and asked God to show us, tell us how we can help. And the idea came to go to Sam's and buy all kinds of things like the big pack of plates and big pack of paper towels and toilet paper, because what we figured was they would probably have a lot of guests in the home and she didn't need to worry about all of this. So I said, well, let's just go and let's pick up whatever you feel like we need to put in the cart. And so kids and I went down different aisles. We put things in the cart and then we loaded everything up in the car and we were pulling up into their house. And again, like the last episode, as we were pulling into their driveway, it dawned on me, how are we going to get these things in the house while not making it about us and being able to love this lady well? But prior to us driving and parking in their driveway, the training ahead was happening. It happened at the dining table when we were discussing the situation. I wanted to give them a compassion and a love and a comfortability of helping when it's greater than we can imagine the situation
Mhm.
walking into. But on the drive there, the training ahead, the discussion ahead, the preparation was some do's and don'ts that I had learned from a wonderful book called The Art of Helping by Lauren Littauer Briggs. So she wrote this great book on the art of helping, and it said do's and don'ts in all of these kinds of different situations you would find yourself with loving other people. And that book arrived that day
Oh, wow.
at our house. So we opened it up, and there was a chapter on do's and don'ts for if somebody has a loved one who has died in that manner. So I was able to talk with the kids about that. Like, we want to hug her and tell her that we're praying for her and that we love her. And I want to make sure, because the kids didn't really know him, but I wanted them to know what I would be doing was I would point out how he's impacted my life.
Right.
And then I would be willing to just sit and be silent there with the other people that were there. So we pull up and they're prepared for all that. And I said, oh, let's pray about what to do with all this stuff. And we prayed. And so what happened was I said, well, I'll greet her and you guys quietly unload everything in the car into their kitchen, which we didn't even know where that was. We'd never been in her house before. And they quietly just went into the kitchen with paper towels and toilet paper and a big thing of muffins and whatever else there was. And they did it quietly, no attention. And I sat and I was present. I didn't have the answers. And I was willing to just be obedient because God called us to love a person well.
And just be physically present. And sometimes when you give your time, once you have sat there and just listened, it will help them to know this is what I could use help with. Or it will help you to know just in being here, I can see some things that I can do to help. But that takes time, like we're talking about, is, giving our time. And, we all have done it. We've all done it to where we've texted somebody or called somebody and said, if you need anything, let me know.
Mm-hmm.
Or please, don't hesitate to reach out if you need anything, which is fine. Those are good things to do. But to say, I'm going to go ahead and give my time and I'm going to go ahead and show up and just sit there and be present, like you're saying, maybe in the hospital room or whatever. And then as you're there, your eyes will be opened. Maybe even their eyes will be opened to say, I don't know what to tell people to do to help, but can you do fill in the blank? But that takes time on both parties, on the people who are needing help and on our end as well. One thing that I know that people do is making meals for people, which is such a huge help. We've all been on the receiving end of that, and it's huge. And I think sometimes that gets overlooked as people might think, that's really not that big of a deal. That's not, should I even do that? But I mean, everybody's been on the receiving of that and known how big of a deal that is and helpful. Maybe picking up a child from school for some, a friend who's going through a hard time. That's a way you can give your time is, hey, can I go pick up your kid from school, or can I run to the pharmacy and pick up that medicine? All of that kind of stuff just takes time.
Yes. Well, you have a really good point there that with the right spirit, people usually say something like that, like, hey, let me know if I can help. And they probably really mean it.
Mm-hmm.
But very few people really are going to take somebody up on that.
Mm-hmm.
So a better way for us to offer to help is to text or call. Really, texting these days is a little bit better because if it's a sad situation, then there's oftentimes somebody doesn't want to talk.
Mm-hmm.
But if you text, you can say, hey, I'm at the grocery store. I'm going to pick up something for you. So how about telling me, give me your grocery list.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm picking up fruit. What are your favorite fruits? Or I'm stopping by Chick-fil-A and give me your family's order. I'll be there in, 30 minutes, and either give me your order or I'm just picking up, the salads with the chicken strips on them.
Mm-hmm.
So they know that you're going to do it. And what you're doing is trying to craft the wording in such a way that is easy for them to say an answer. It's not like putting it all on them to have to say, yeah, I really would love for you to clean my house.
It's not open. It's very specific. Who doesn't need a ministry of a Chick-fil-A?
Exactly. When my kids were going through their different cancer treatments, there was a group of friends that came over while we were in the hospital, and they just divided and conquered. They cleaned the house, and it was just such a beautiful thing. One of my friends, Karen,
Mm-hmm.
even said, is there something specific in your house that you would like clean, but you haven't gotten around to it? That was a beautiful invitation for me to say, yes, there's a ring on the big garden tub, a water spot that I can't get off. Now, you know what? It was there years before going through this cancer journey. But the way that she
Specific.
specifically
Mm-hmm.
said, and you know what she did? She came over here and she gave it a valiant effort, and she did get it off. But she like at that time Googled a recipe, some kind of concoction to try to get it off, and she worked really hard. Why did she do that? To be a blessing.
Mm-hmm. And it's time. Yeah, our time.
So there's a lot of lessons in this. And a big one is women. We need to let people help. We need
True.
to,
Mm-hmm.
people offer, practice saying, sure, maybe even have, if you're going through a hard time and it's such an event where there will be people to offer, maybe keep a list of things that you could have done around your house. Like, I'd really like it if somebody mowed my yard, or grocery shopping, or some gift cards would be such a blessing. And that way, when you have people ask, you can say, let me look at my list. These are some things to choose from, but please let people in. You're missing a blessing of somebody else being able to lighten your load and show their love and concern and care for you. And you're also missing an opportunity of deepening friendship. And that person could receive such a blessing from the joy they get from knowing they've helped you. And I think way too many of us, that's a learning journey that we take in life.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is something that you have to learn. You have to let go of your own pride too and say, I can't do that, whatever that might be. I mean, Karen asking you, is there something specific in your home? You had to let go of some pride and some, maybe concern of what she would think if you said, yeah, there's a ring in the tub. Can you please help a friend out and do that? And also, there's a part of relationship, like what kind of relationship you have with somebody. You can judge that on your own, but you are having to let go of a little bit of your own insecurities or your own pride in saying, or, sometimes I know even recently somebody has said, hey, can I help? Or do you need anything? And I've said no. And then I've thought about it and thought, why? Yeah, sure. Just recently our niece said, hey, I know that you can do X, Y, and Z to get that done. And I was like, okay. And she said, I'll do it. I can do it. And I was like, no, I can take it. And then I thought, literally like within 30 minutes, I went back and was like, actually, no, you can go ahead and do it. Like, what am I doing? Like, why would I just not say, okay, great, go for it? Or like you're saying, you're in the Chick-fil-A line already and calling somebody and saying, hey, I'm here and I'm just going to pick up some salads. Instead of saying, no, don't worry about it. Just say, okay.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
And if you have teenagers and God puts this thought on your mind, why not call somebody that you know is hurting in some capacity? It could be a widow, young or old. It could be an older person that lives in the neighborhood. It could be a pastor that has a lot on him and God put like his name ran through your mind. It could be, a single mom.
Mm-hmm.
We're called to help and to see the world through these eyes of how can I help? When you're raising these kids, you have all these other helpers with different talents and skills and strength and ability.
Use them.
Yes, use them.
Right.
So why not, kind of glance through a list of these people in your life, say, Lord, who could I have in our life that we could have the boys mow their yard for free? Because we want to teach them to just see a need and give and mow their yard. The neighbors need their roof blown off and they're 92. And although that lady is spry, it'd probably be better if my 14-year-old and 18-year-old went up there and blew all the leaves off the roof for them.
That's really good.
Yeah.
So we talked about money, we talked about talents, and we talked about time. How about a generous tongue and a way to be generous with what we say and what we speak?
I think of the phrase that I've been using for a long time in my home. It's when you think something nice, say it. A great thing to have as a quote in your home. And this early memory of when I was trying to teach the kids this comes to mind. And we were at a restaurant and we had been talking about this concept. If you think it, say it, because how many adults do we know that can't say something nice to somebody because they think it's a threat to them, or they're jealous, or they compare, or they think, well, if I say that to them, they're going to think they're better than I am, or all of these wrong thinkings, when really what God's called us to do is be generous with our compliments, not fluff, not flattery, but specific words of affirmation and words of praise. So we're teaching the kids this. There's lots of verses in the Bible, in Proverbs in particular, on this concept that you could, teach your kids at your devotion time. Well, so here we are at a restaurant, and I still remember this clear as day. Our oldest son was in elementary school at the time, and he used bigger words and was more articulate than some. So remember that when you hear this story.
Firstborn.
So the lady, our waitress is, doing a great job. But my son goes, she has excellent people skills.
Cute.
And so, look, he thought something nice, didn't he? And so immediately I said, you just said something nice. So you need to say it to him. And so, I wanted to make sure that he was comfortable in doing that. And you'd want to do that with your kids too. You can't just spring it on them. Hey, say it. Because they'd be like, no, I'm not going to say it. I don't know what to say. Go ahead and teach them those kind of reservations at home so you can work through it, because the bottom line is all of those insecurities and but what if and all those focus on ourselves.
Definitely.
We want to help the kids learn to focus on the other person. And so he didn't really need the role playing, but if he would have, we would have said, okay, it's just when she comes back, you can just say, you have good people skills. You're just simply saying the same thing you told me. And it's not for your gain. It's not to look like a good parent. It's training in real life to bless another person with genuine words that have from observations made that have to do with something specific. So she came back and I said, hey, my son just noticed something about you and I wanted him to share it with you. And so he said, you have great people skills. And what was a solemn face lightened and a smile broke out and even tears. Why? Because it was specific and it was true. And who knows, maybe that made her day, and it would make my day if
Mhm.
somebody said something very specific that had to do with my character or my personality, the way I was serving them and taking care of them. And so anyway, that was, one of those lessons that I remember putting into play.
That's really good. And, again, that takes some practice. For all of us, not just kids, it takes some practice in getting over our own insecurities, our own pride, and just saying that simple phrase of, if you think something, say it, and to be an encouragement to somebody else and to just, it's not too time consuming. It's not anything difficult, but we have to practice it for it to get easier and better every time.
Yeah. And when you make that be part of the tone, the normal tone in your home where your kids are learning to study each other and observe things through a different lens, such as maybe they're they're drawing on their school paper. The little one is drawing on their older siblings' paper, and it's very annoying.
Sure.
Of course that is.
Mhm.
When you want to teach the little one not to do that.
Right.
But the older one can be taught patience and taught to find beauty. We already kind of talked about that because I remember scribbling in the Bible. We gave that example.
Mhm.
You have to go back and listen. That was a really cute one. But the point is, the kids can learn to see the strengths and the beautiful things within their siblings and say
And say it.
So a tradition we have is called the special plate. And that is where it's a red plate that says you're special. And you don't have to have the plate to do it because we take this on the road if we're on a vacation and it's somebody's birthday. We don't have the plate with us. But the concept is this. There's a red plate in front of the person who's going to be honored. And we go around the table, or if there's no plate and we're sitting in a room, we just go around the room. Same thing happens where each person easily says specific things about the one being honored that mean a lot to them. So it would go something like, Melissa, you are special to me. And then very real points like, Melissa, you've been very faithful to me and very patient because, as our listeners know, 12 years ago, we wanted to start a podcast. And yet life happened and things happened. And then I called you back and we tried to do it again a few years later and then again. And then here we are today. And each time I called you, even though we don't see each other regularly, each time I texted you to say, okay, I'm ready. You were right there, believing in me and ready to go. You have such patience and the beauty in which you come alongside my weaknesses and I don't feel judged from them. I don't feel embarrassed to expose those to you, like disorganization and forgetting where things are. And can you send that again, even though you sent it 12 times to me? You just do. You don't make me feel judged. And that's a great quality that you have that enables me to get closer and closer with you because I don't feel like I have to be guarded so my weaknesses aren't exposed. That's you. And I really value that very much in you, and I love you.
Thanks, Rhonda.
And so that's a little example that was off the cuff, and it meant something because it was genuine and specific. And that's what each of our kids and family members can easily do to each other. They can talk like that. And that's a really, really sweet thing to do. And I got that vision from someone else a long time ago. And I thought, I want my family to be able to talk like that within our home. And it starts wherever you are today. Don't think, well, I've waited too long. No, you can start today by just saying, hey, we want to start doing this in our home where we honor each other. So I want y'all we're going to honor your dad. It doesn't have to be a birthday. It can be because he provides for the family or anything, whatever event. Practice it, teach your kids ahead of time. This is what we're going to do. The point is to study character qualities, skills that they have. You can be share a specific story with it, but we're to honor dad and we're going to go around. So you're teaching each person to speak up, to observe good things, to use their voice. But if the kids are little, which is when we started, we had little ones, then it's okay. Your home is training ground. So we would say something like, let's say that we're honoring their dad. So Heather was our youngest one. So before she could complete a full sentence, we would do the special plate. And when it was her turn, I would whisper in her ear, "You are special." And she would say, "You're special." And then I'd say, "Because you're my dad." And she would say, "Because you're my dad." And I would just give her little clips of information. And I'd say the next thing, like specific. "I like when you make pancakes with me." Okay. Then she repeats it. "And I love you, Dad." And they're just learning. And then before you know it, they know how to be able to observe wonderful qualities in each other and say it. That's being generous with your tongue, is using your mind, your words, your observation to speak life into another person.
And I like how you said, if this has not been what you've done, it's okay. No judgment here. Start where you are, start today. Even if your kids are out of the house, you can start. So thank you so much, Rhonda.
Yeah.
That was a great episode. And we will see you guys next week. Please continue to share the podcast and review and like.
And keep cultivating hearts and homes for Christ.
Bye. Thanks for spending this time with us today. We hope you're walking away encouraged and equipped with something simple you can put into practice right where you are. Remember, it's the small, faithful choices that shape the atmosphere of your home. So wherever you are today, keep cultivating hearts and homes for Christ.